The harsh words of my ex-husband, Tom, still linger in my mind. I never should have married an old woman like you. Younger women are definitely better. I can't even walk around with you in public. You're just so embarrassing. If I could do it all over again. He spoke those words a decade ago. I'm Elizabeth, now 48 years old. I was 33 when I married Tom, who was 5 years younger than me. We met at the hospital where I worked as a nurse, and he was a newly graduated doctor. He often sought my advice, and I found his curiosity charming. Despite the age gap, after dating for 2 years, we married. Dismissing any concerns I had about the difference in our ages, Tom seemed unfazed, so I pushed my doubts aside. But after 5 years of marriage, Tom's attitude shifted. He started belittling me, constantly lamenting how he should have married someone younger. His overly familiar behavior with young nurses at work upset me, but I stayed silent, not wanting to cause problems at the hospital. Eventually, it came to light that Tom was cheating, and the woman was a former patient, someone I didn't know. As we worked in different departments, she was 10 years younger than me and pregnant with his child. Tom's nonchalant reaction to his betrayal was astonishing. It's no surprise we couldn't have kids with an old lady like you. My girlfriend's carrying my child, he said with a laugh. At that moment, I knew I couldn't stay in such a toxic relationship any longer, and I decided to file for divorce. When I told Tom and his girlfriend that I would seek alimony, Tom's reaction was full of anger. I spent 5 years with an old hag like you, and now you want alimony? I should be the one getting something. Who would pay you anything? His outburst shocked me, revealing his complete disregard for the possibility that he might owe me anything, despite his affair. Tom's father even called me, brushing off his son's behavior and claiming it was natural for a young man to seek a younger woman. I was appalled by their lack of accountability. Tom refused to pay, so I had no choice but to seek legal help. I couldn't just walk away quietly after everything he put me through. The lawyer assured me I had every right to request alimony, and I entrusted them to handle it. They say divorce is harder than marriage, and I can confirm that's true. Thanks to my lawyer, I received a fair alimony settlement, ended the lease on our apartment, and started living on my own. I also reverted to using my maiden name. One positive outcome was that Tom transferred to a different hospital. I wouldn't want to work with a greedy old hag like you, he said with one final jab. He quickly secured a new job at another hospital, probably anticipating backlash from marrying his mistress. It was clear that he had planned his next steps carefully. Despite everything, rumors about me spread, with whispers suggesting I had been discarded by my younger husband. The gossip weighed heavily on me, making me feel paranoid. Eventually, I left my job at the hospital. After some time spent drifting aimlessly, I decided to return to work, as I needed to stay busy. Fortunately, I found a small maternity clinic just a few stops away from my new home, and they hired me on the spot. Although the clinic was small, with only a few doctors and nurses, it had a warm and friendly atmosphere. Everyone got along well with the patients. Miss Britton, you have such a sharp eye, and the patients love you. We're lucky to have you here, they'd tell me. But my peace didn't last long. One day, a pregnant woman was referred to us from another hospital, and as soon as I saw her name, Sarah Evans, I immediately recognized it as the same last name as Tom's mistress. Curious, I checked her husband's name, Tom Evans, a doctor. Without a doubt, it was my ex-husband. Tom's new hospital didn't have an obstetrics department, so they had been referred to us, since I had reverted to my maiden name and we had never met in person. Sarah didn't recognize me. I didn't expect our paths to cross like this, so I kept the information to myself for a few days. Then one day, Tom accompanied Sarah to her checkup. His face turned white with shock when he saw me. Clearly, he hadn't anticipated running into me here, and I certainly had no interest in seeing him either. "What are you doing here?" Tom asked, and Sarah quickly realized who I was. "Wait, is she here to cause trouble?" she asked, glaring at me. "Of course not," I replied. "I was here first. I had no idea Tom had moved to work near this hospital. But Tom wouldn't listen to me and accused me of stalking them. "You're following me around, aren't you?" he yelled. "Don't be ridiculous. Why would I do that? You squeeze money out of me because you're old and got dumped," he shouted, making sure everyone in the room knew about our past. The stares of the others were uncomfortable, even though I knew Tom was in the wrong. Sarah added to the drama, pretending to be distressed. I'm scared. I've felt targeted ever since I came here. What if something happens to my baby? Tom took this chance to demand, please, keep her away from my wife. The doctor in charge asked me to leave the examination room, probably just to defuse the situation. I understood that the patients came first, but it was humiliating. I didn't want to be there either, especially with the details of my divorce being exposed. As if things couldn't get worse, Tom's wife continued to make snide comments whenever she came to the hospital. Although everyone knew I was not at fault, they kept quiet to avoid upsetting her or interfering with her pregnancy. This made the work environment increasingly uncomfortable. With more than 6 months until her due date, I couldn't imagine enduring the tension for that long. Despite the positive work environment, I decided to resign from the hospital. It's a shame, but there's nothing we can do, the director said, somewhat relieved, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. It felt like I was being punished. Exhausted from the ordeal, I decided not to search for another hospital job and instead returned to my parents' rural home. They welcomed me without saying a word. At first, I struggled with not doing anything, but the thought of being idle made me feel guilty. So I took a part-time job at a nearby supermarket. Working outside the hospital was a change, but a welcome one. I had always enjoyed being a nurse, and it brought me great fulfillment. But the stress and responsibility had taken its toll. Taking a step back was good for my emotional health. 3 years later, I was offered a full-time position at the supermarket. My efforts had been recognized, and I was thrilled to accept the offer. For years after that, a matchmaker approached me. Would you be open to an arranged marriage? They asked, catching me off guard. Excuse me? I think I have the perfect person for you, the store manager said one day. At 45, I had no intention of remarrying, so I politely declined, but the manager was persistent. The person is a 47-year-old divorcee, just like you, who went through a similar situation due to infidelity 20 years ago, the manager explained. Eventually, I agreed to meet the man. Given our ages, we decided to meet without intermediaries. When I arrived at the restaurant, he was already there, waiting. As I walked in, he quickly stood up to greet me and accidentally bumped his forehead against the table in his rush. Ow, he exclaimed, his face turning bright red. I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. It was a light-hearted and refreshing start to our meeting. Hi, I'm James. Thanks for coming today. Nice to meet you. I'm Elizabeth, I responded. His charming little mishap broke the ice, and we quickly felt comfortable with each other. As James shared his story, I learned that he had fallen for me at first sight when he visited the supermarket on a business trip. He had arranged the meeting after talking to his college senior, who happened to be the manager of our store. I'm hoping we can build something serious together, James said, looking at me with sincerity. While I had initially planned to avoid getting involved romantically, there was something about him that made me want to see him again. After 6 months of dating, we decided to get married. My parents were thrilled to meet James and appreciated his thoughtful personality, and they were genuinely happy for us. Having a husband who always puts me first has truly been a gift. Since we were older, we had agreed not to have children and instead focus on enjoying a calm and fulfilling life together. However, when I turned 48, my health began to decline, and a visit to the hospital revealed an unexpected surprise. I was pregnant. At my age, I never imagined conceiving, and my symptoms didn't initially suggest morning sickness. My husband was just as shocked. It seems we're expecting a baby, I told him. His immediate response was, that's incredible. So who's the lucky one? Is it someone I know? Yes, it's someone you know quite well. They're right here in front of you, I replied, smiling. Wait, I'm the one who's pregnant? He asked, looking utterly shocked. My husband paused for a moment, processing the news. I couldn't help but think, this is exactly the reaction I anticipated. He looked at my belly, the baby we were about to welcome, and his expression grew even more surprised. The news was so out of the blue that it took him a moment to absorb it. I didn't see this coming. So, we're going to be parents? He said, his voice filled with awe. Looks like it, I confirmed. Really? He asked, still stunned, before pulling me into a tight embrace. It's a miracle. Do you think it's okay for me to go through with the pregnancy? I asked. Though I hadn't seriously considered terminating it, I was aware of the risks of having a baby later in life. The doctors even asked, "What do you want to do?" I knew the risks for both me and the baby were higher at my age, and some people around me might not be supportive. The prospect of raising a child at this stage in life also gave me pause, but I couldn't bring myself to end the life growing inside me. "What are you saying? Of course, you should have this baby," my husband said immediately, his excitement lifting my spirits. Still, as time went on, his concerns about my health started to surface. It's easy to see how someone so supportive could still be worried about the challenges we might face. After many discussions and consulting with our doctor, we decided to move forward. Our parents were initially shocked, but they were happy for us. We chose a well-established hospital with the best facilities for my care. The doctor overseeing my pregnancy was kind and reassured us. At one of my checkups, an internist was scheduled to be present alongside the obstetrician as a precaution. Although my husband was supposed to attend, a work commitment kept him away, so I went to the appointment alone. To my surprise, my ex-husband Tom was also at the hospital. I never expected to run into him in such a setting. "Wait, seriously? You, a 48-year-old pregnant woman?" Tom said, laughing. "This is unbelievable." The obstetrician and nurse exchanged uncertain glances, but Tom didn't seem bothered. "You have no right to speak to me like that," I said. "I'm genuinely concerned about getting pregnant at my age, but that's not an excuse for you to be disrespectful. Are you even qualified to be a doctor? It's clear you don't understand what you're talking about. You're out of line." "Excuse me, Dr. Evans, but I'm leaving. I don't want to give birth in a hospital where a doctor like you works," I said. "Fine, leave," Dr. Evans replied. "That woman is the wife of a well-known philanthropist who has made significant contributions to this hospital." "What?" I responded, surprised. "Dr. Evans, I don't think you're aware, but you're new here. She's not related to you, but your comments were inappropriate," as Mrs. Miles pointed out. "I can't believe a doctor would speak like that," the nurse added. Just then, my husband arrived. "Sorry I'm late. My wife has been a huge help to you," he said, immediately noticing my distress. Tom turned pale, realizing something wasn't right. "Is something wrong?" my husband asked. "This man, Dr. Evans, just said that giving birth at 48 is disgusting," I explained. "What?" My usually calm husband's expression hardened immediately. Once I mentioned Dr. Evans by name, he must have realized who it was. I had shared details about my previous marriage, including Tom's name and background. "Are you Dr. Evans? You insulted my wife, didn't you? How could a hospital allow a doctor to insult a patient? I can't trust this place with my wife and our unborn child," my husband said. At that moment, the nurse returned with the hospital director. "I was informed there was an issue," the director said. "We came here based on my father's recommendation, but this doctor's behavior is unacceptable. It seems we've made the wrong choice," I told the director, feeling upset. "I'm deeply sorry. This man is not part of our staff. I've just terminated his employment," the director responded. "What?" I asked, shocked. I didn't know about his behavior until now. I only hired him as a favor to a friend. "We cannot tolerate such conduct. He will no longer be working here." "Wait, director, what are you saying?" Tom protested. "Quiet, leave immediately and do not return," the director commanded. Hearing that, Tom was escorted out by the obstetrician. The director apologized profusely, and we felt sympathy for him. After we regained our composure, we sat down again, but my husband's anger remained. "Did you fire him because of my father's donations? If not, would you have let him continue working here?" my husband asked. The director shook his head in disbelief. It turned out Tom had only been working there for a week. Tom's father, who had gone to school with the director, had requested the job for his son after a recent reunion. The director had no idea Tom would behave in this manner and offered his sincere apologies. Not all the doctors at this hospital are like Tom. In fact, our obstetrician is highly respected and skilled. Had it not been for Tom, I would have preferred to deliver here, I said, and my husband agreed. My father-in-law is the president of a national company. He donates a portion of his company's profits to healthcare and welfare causes. He generously contributed to this hospital, especially since my mother-in-law received treatment here years ago. As a result, my father-in-law recommended this hospital for my childbirth. A few days later, Tom contacted us, begging us to intervene and get him reinstated. If you just ask, they might reconsider, right? It became clear that Tom had a history of upsetting patients with his arrogant attitude and had been bouncing from hospital to hospital. It was frustrating to see him making the same mistakes over and over, despite his father's warnings that there would be serious consequences if he was fired again. I couldn't help but wonder if my ex-father-in-law's indulgence had fueled Tom's behavior. When Tom called, my husband was with me. He took the phone from me and firmly warned Tom that if he ever tried to contact us again or came near me, he would report him for harassment. Tom must have taken the threat seriously because he never called again. Several months later, as we were heading home from the hospital, we stopped at a convenience store. There, we saw Tom working. It appeared no hospital would hire him anymore. He was visibly upset and shared that his wife and child had left him. But I felt no sympathy. I decided to avoid that store from then on. The following year, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She has been an absolute joy, and my husband is completely smitten with her. He's already showing signs of being a doting father, so I'll have to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't spoil her too much. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay amazed.